Well, hello and welcome to the third annual EMS Leadership Summit on day number 5 on our final daily debrief. Lisa, great to be with you.
Great to be with you too. How can it possibly be day 5 already? We just started like a minute ago.
Well, we are excited to have a great panel of experts from today's session in the green room waiting to come on live. So if you can hear okay, if you can hear us okay, just comment in the comments if the audio sounds good. Let us know where you're joining in from, what city, state, or country. We have folks that have joined in from over 44 different countries this last week. So it's really incredible to see such a great response.
I know, just knowing we've had thousands of people from around the world in the conversation about developing leadership in EMS It gives me chills. I mean, when you really slow down and think about it, if everyone who's been watching got one thing out of this lineup of speakers, and it would be hard not to get one thing, right? I mean,
absolutely.
We've just had amazing speakers and we have an amazing panel tonight. We've had so much participation from our speakers every single night. It's been phenomenal.
It absolutely has. And folks, we want to remind you, we've got a virtual exhibitor hall here. So all of our sessions, you can still watch day number 5's lineup, which we're going to talk about today by going to emsleadershipsummit.com/exhibit. We finished up just a few hours ago with Dr. Nadine Levick. She did a live session from Israel talking about the latest innovations in her annual keynote, what's turning into her annual keynote address with some of the latest and greatest innovations.
She's always on the cutting edge. I just love listening to her, and I so appreciate that she's a partner with us every year. She's terrific, just high energy, so innovative, just amazing woman.
She had 157 slides, and it was over like that. It was amazing.
Well, let's highlight some sponsors because
Absolutely.
they are we are so grateful for them. Because of them, we can have a free conference where people from all over the world can visit and see amazing presentations and do it for free.
Our friends at FirstNet by AT&T put together a great presentation. Ryan Speck with the Response Operations Group did a great session this week that we featured along with ROG, their therapy dog. And you can visit their booth and check out a lot of the resources and a video overview of the Response Operation Group and how they're deploying all over the country in the US to ensure there are backup solutions when infrastructure gets damaged.
And who knew we were going to have 2 therapy dogs in our exhibitor hall this year? Thank you, Technomount, also for their sponsorship, as well as their sponsorship of Dude, the therapy dog. And thanks to them, we had our first presentation given in a non-English. It was done in French, and they provided the translation in English subtitles. So thank you, Technomount. But that video on Dude right there is so cool. And then listening to the presentation of Eric Hamill and what amazing work they're doing in helping to prevent PTSD.
It was a great conversation last night. I was thrilled that he was able to join in and really talk about their experiences in Quebec and what their services have gone through related to providers experiencing PTSD and traumas. And
I was a little disappointed that Dude didn't show up, but he was good too.
Right. And our friends at Ninth Brain putting together cloud-based solutions to tie together different systems. If you're looking for any forms or checklists, workforce scheduling, communication tools, risk assessments, quality improvement. You can't change what you can't measure, and they are definitely leading the charge in different applications to help tie together EMS systems and create more operational efficiencies. So please feel free to check out their booth. You could send a message to their brain ambassador, Tim, at Ninth Brain, and they've been a great partner. So we thank them.
Can I just say one thing about them is that, how many times have you and I been out doing training or on a webinar and people say, this is all well and good, but, we don't have time. We don't have time. We don't have time. Well, if you ever say those words, you need to check out this booth and you need to check out what Ninth Brain has to offer, because they create solutions so things get taken care care of, and you don't have to take your time to do them. So just rush right over to that booth, fill it out, and talk to the brain ambassador, because if you have a complaint about time, you need to check out Ninth Brain.
Want to thank Martin from Fire Rescue TV for live streaming this through the Fire Rescue TV network, digital signage and messaging platforms designed for EMS and fire stations. So thanks, Martin, for live streaming this out to over 400 stations in the US.
Imagine if you have multiple stations and you have something you want to communicate, and you can just type it in and boom, it shows on every monitor in every station. Such a brilliant innovation for communication, training. He's got really cool stuff that he sends out. I mean, recognition you can do with his solutions. So definitely send him a shout out and get more information on that.
It looks like we've got folks joining in from all over. We've got Ontario, Canada. Welcome. Dwight is back from Detroit. Dwight, good to see you. Eric in from Oklahoma. He said it's been an outstanding summit with some great exhibitors, and actually says they use Ninth Brain as well. So
nice,
Eric.
Oh, Alyssa's here too.
And yep,
as you in her booth.
Fairfax County booth. Welcome, Alyssa. And as part of the recruitment team, Alyssa and Clay have put together a great feature about their department, the various benefits of working for Fairfax County, and as well as the whole process of how their team kind of walks people through the recruit school and the application process.
One thing I really got out of, well, first of all, just speaking with them in general, in the lead up to the summit, but watching Captain Crowboth's presentation, interviewing Alyssa and Captain Clay, and also last night with Corey, they got something going on at that station. Yeah. I mean, at that department. If you're interested in cutting edge information, being a part of an amazing team of professionals, you should check out their booth and see what they have to offer. It's amazing what they're up to.
Want to thank the folks over at Binderlift as well. They've been a great sponsor for a few years in a row. Their product is phenomenal, especially when you get to have your hands on the product and actually use it. Rick Bender is offering a free field trial, so you can fill out their form for your department, and they will ship you at no charge a whole setup, so you can actually get your providers testing it out.
And lifting people without having to put your hands under their armpits is not a bad thing. Let me just say.
Absolutely, especially in those precarious positions, small bathrooms and showers, and it's a great thing to help improve provider safety and patient safety.
Absolutely. Let's hop over to Chris Ceballero's booth.
Yeah, the folks at IAMed, they put together.
IAMed, Chris Matina. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yep,
that's
Chris
okay.
Matina. Wrong
Chris, what
they featured two of their main flight medical provider courses, as well as their 100-hour research. So if you wanted to research any your FPC or a national registry, they've put together packages there. And so there's a lot of information here about their program. Be sure to check it out. I used their program as a test prep for getting my FPC, and it was definitely a perfect way to prepare for that board examination. So,
that's wonderful.
As well as the CME Collective, they're offering 48 hours all you can eat CMEs in their critical care training app. So check that code out in the CME Collective's booth. And we had a lunch and learn this last week. So we actually issued Grubhub gift certificates to folks that attended. And if you're interested in agency level information on the CME Collective, some of the greatest podcasts and clinical information, they've got a lot of great partners, and they're putting together a really neat platform for agencies.
Absolutely. And Chris Ceballero's did a wonderful presentation for us. I don't know, one of the days we were working, I don't remember. But this book that the presentation was on the same topic as the book. And he has generously provided us with some signed copies. And you can get a signed copy of this amazing book by Chris Ceballero for $9 and $1 shipping. I can't even get it for that on Amazon, for goodness sake. So we have a limited number of copies left. So if you are interested, hop on over there and fill out the information, and we will drop ship you a book as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I want to thank Suze Jeffrey. She's going to be with us in a few minutes too. In her Stress Less, Eat Better booth, she's put together a healthy snack guide for busy EMS professionals. And it sounds like a couple of people have already reached out to her from the conference looking for more information, which is great to hear. Nothing like trying to fuel your body with healthy food, especially as busy as folks are in EMS.
Yeah, I just want to, I know I've said this every night, but every single booth offers something of value, whether it's a downloadable toolkit, whether it's, information to help you. So just mosey around. They're all interactive. You click on them and click on all the, everything's live in there, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. So
thanks to the Resuscitation Academy and Citizen CPR Foundation for putting together some great resources, 10 simple, not always easy, but simple steps to implement that will impact survival in your communities. And it was a great panel discussion. We're going to leave that up in their booth. So be sure to check out that conversation on challenging sudden death.
And the booth will remain live after the summit is over for a period of time. So be sure to, check out the sponsors and show them some love.
All right, Lisa. Well, we've got our great expert panel ready to go and lined up. So we'll bring them in here.
All right. Who's in the house?
All right. Let's welcome Suze Jeffrey. Suze, welcome.
Suze. How about that healthy snack guide? Come on. That's like a dream come true.
Right? I mean, it sounds like a contradiction, but snacks can be healthy and tasty too. That's the thing. It's got to be tastier. We're not going to eat it.
We're going to welcome in Scott Moore. Scott, welcome.
Hey, Scott. Welcome back.
Hello there. How are you all?
I'm good. I have to tell you, I have been getting such great feedback from people talking about you being on the panel, and it's been so fun just hearing people getting so much out of it. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for running this event. It's been unbelievable. What else would put us in our offices on a Sunday night, right? And you're not upset about it. You're like, oh, this is great. So, I think this is one of the things that, being involved with conferences for a long time, the wind up at the end of the day to kind of cross-pollinate all of the sessions is just, I think it's a fantastic idea. So I thank you for letting me be part of it.
I love it. We didn't do it the first year. We did it last year, and I was like, we got to do that again, man. That's so much fun.
And welcome Lisa Rainey, our supply and logistics extraordinaire expert. How are you, Lisa?
Hello, Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
And a panel wouldn't be complete if we didn't have, two people with the same name. So and we can't even say Lisa with the long hair, right?
Well, welcome to everyone. We've had some great questions come in from the audience. We're taking your questions live as well. So feel free in the comments of wherever you're watching from. You can jot down a question you might have for any of our speakers. If you had a chance to watch their presentations today, or you still have about 12 hours to check out those presentations after the live. So we want to make sure we're able to take your questions wherever they may come from.
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye on the comments, and we had some email questions, which we'll get to if we need, if we have time. But first, we like to start every live with just hearing from each of you. Anything you want to say about your presentation to highlight it for the folks who are watching. Any like takeaways you want to make sure people have, or anything, or you can share anything you want about, your experience with the summit so far. So Lisa, how about you kick us off and tell us a little bit about your shampoo principle?
Sure. Well, first off, I wanted to say for those others on the panel, I was able to listen to your presentations today and they were so helpful. So I've really been enjoying jumping into a lot of the presentations and gleaning the things. I know I need to get my sugar intake down, Suze. I'm working on it. It's a work in process.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. And I was thinking your shampoo principle is the sort of same theory I have about toothpaste in our house, right? You know, it's amazing at the end. You'll even crush the part with the threaded end.
You can cut the bottom off the tube.
Right.
I mean,
Of course.
where there's a will, there's a way.
That's right.
So
That's right.
it is funny. I think with that that premise, the shampoo principle, it can be pulled into so many different areas. And if you weren't able to listen to the session, I'll give you a little 10,000-foot view of it. Basically, when you buy something new and there's a lot of it, no matter how much you're supposed to use, you may overindulge. You use a little bit more. You get about halfway through whatever that item is, and you might use the right amount. You know, not too much, not too little. By the time you're at the end, you find every little way to get every little last bit of whatever that item is out. I mean, I still find myself adding water to soap sometimes, a little dispenser soap, because it's just a weird psychological way our brains look at things. And the same runs true with EMS supplies. And I started to think about it. If you're from a household where your parent didn't buy a lot of snacks or sweets like mine, and you are a sugar addict like me, when that parent did bring home a box or two of, let's just say, Little Debbie Star Crunch or whatever it might be.
That was very specific.
I'm just spitballing here. When that happened, boy, that box went really fast, right? Or at least until you got to the end and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have 2 of those today. It's really funny to me that the way our brains work, you know, when you don't have something, you want it. And Suze, this may even speak into yours a little bit. When you're satiated, right? When you have something that tastes good, you don't feel like you're being denied or deprived, and you don't overindulge. So I think, you know, that principle kind of cross-pollinates here.
Absolutely. You know, and the thing that I was struck by in your presentation, one of the many things was, you know, it's one of those things where I think people, you know, I don't know if they pay, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they pay attention to, oh, so we ran out of something, so what? But it leaves people with something like, oh, I can't even count on, I'm going to have that supply when I need it, you know, and then that, like you said, leads to hoarding or leads to other hiding stuff, right? And then it's, you know, it's like, well, I don't want day crew to get, you know, all of it, so I have to have, but it all comes from the uncertainty. And
Yeah.
the thing that you shared that I love so much was there's a way to have certainty, and it doesn't have to be rocket science, for Pete's sake, you know, but there is something so powerful about providing that kind of certainty on every level, whether it's supplies, whether it's how we handle when things don't go well, like there's certainty.
Right. Even knowing, you know, your supervisor's got your back on something, or, you know, knowing that what's expected of you is clearly defined, and knowing that if you make a mistake, but if you're working toward the right outcome at all given times, you know, your supervisor will have your back. I think there's a lot of nuggets we can pull, you know, from just the way our brains work and how we think about things, and finding comfort level in what to expect.
Yeah, it's great. Well, thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you.
And I mean, EMS agencies are going to have to get a lot more in tune than they were before. I mean, this last year, what people found that were in charge of logistics was that the supply chain was not as dependable and reliable as they thought it was. So,
right. And part of that is still always, it's going to happen, right? We're going to have national back orders. For goodness sake, we've had it on salt water. I mean, we've had it on sugar water. Like, when we boil it down to the basics, there will be back orders. There will be national back orders. Having yourself organized in a way that you know when that's about to happen, you know, you are made aware of that, and you can adjust your ordering or adjust your stock levels, and then maybe maneuver what you already have from different stations or from different vehicles, maybe knocking your par levels down a little bit on some of those items so that everybody has enough and nobody is, you know, way overstocked, can help a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, of course it gets touchier with medication back orders, but whether it's dextrose or saline or, you know, IV starts, whatever it may be. If you're able to track your usage and your demand for it, then you can plan a little bit better. And if you do know something bad is coming, with regards to availability, you can adjust accordingly.
Yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
So great. All right, Scott, you're up now. What a great presentation today on the performance evaluations it was fantastic.
Well, I appreciate it. It's something that I know we have talked about multiple times before. I think, we had a webinar with you all earlier this year, and part of what at least I've seen is hearing about workforce shortage. I think a huge piece of that is, that we're not connecting as well with the places that we work and the folks that we work with, because, 30 years ago when I started, you would have a day where you were busy, but you would then also have time when you got sort of a lot of what you needed from feedback from your coworkers, or you had more time to see some of the folks that you engage with. And I think sort of as we've been forced to run at higher UHUs or at because of capacity and lack of staffing, we're sort of, we tend to cut short and maybe not focus as much on the relationship part. And I say that, work relationships are just like any other relationship, whether they be, marriages or friendships. And I think one of the biggest challenges I've seen are one, annual reviews. As I think I said during the presentation, would you tolerate a spouse who told you they loved you once a year, or a dog that came home once a year? That, and the fact that it needs to be regular and ongoing, and it needs to be a two-way discussion, because, it's that you need them actually just as much as they need you. And I think that the whole dynamic needs to change, and we need to stop thinking about feedback as this sort of once a year, or this is, as the sort of the quote is, right? It's the one time a year that the company lets you know that they own you. I think, we need to sort of, redesign it, reevaluate it, and work more on it, because I think as what makes a company hard to leave are the relationships. And if right now, I think the reason we're seeing turnover so high is because we're not able to even have time to form some of those.
Yeah. Go ahead, Robbie.
I was going to say, Scott, I was really struck by some of the statistics you had mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. The average cost of turnover being almost $9,000, almost $10,000 per employee, and on average, losing a third of the workforce. That can really total up.
Yeah, and it's funny because that I get a lot of pushback on that number of that 9,000. That came off of this past year's turnover study from the American Analysts Association, and that's really sort of the cost of turnover, hiring turnover, not really cost to the organization, because I don't think that anybody has done a really good job at really determining what that impact is. But again, there's those financial costs, but then there really that I see are those indirect costs, or those sort of human costs that every single time if 1/3 of your staff is turning every year, every 3 years, you're starting from scratch. And that is just, that is something that you will never, ever catch up on. And it takes a toll on everybody in the organization.
Well, in for-profit, the estimate's 1.5 to 1 3/4 times the salary.
Yeah, the annual
to replace someone. So, that's a standard, number that's out there.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Patterson, Daniel Patterson, who I think has done a lot of you are very familiar with the work he's done on fatigue. There was a study released several years ago that sort of put that number around $10,000. But you're right, the general HR sort of statistic is 1.5 times the person's annual salary. And, I just think that if organizations thought a little bit more about, we see when you think about your average frontline supervisor engages employees about 6 to 8% of the time, and that research is really in retail when everybody's in the same building. My guess is in EMS, it's probably 2 to 5% of the time. And so, if what you're measuring is how many calls are we doing rather than how often are our folks engaging, our leadership engaging the folks who are out there doing the work. I foresee people in leadership, or my vision of people in leadership they're like the personal trainers that make sure the athletes can perform. And so if the organization, if it's very clear, what I hear from most supervisors these days are I'm like, they're like engaging people, I'm doing calls. And this comes back to, for the organizations that have a choice over call volume, because you do have a choice, for those for-profit entities that are doing non-emergency work, they just want to keep getting bigger and bigger. Volume does not equal profitability. And there is a cost to, the folks who were supervisors, their mind was not, hey, I want to become a supervisor so I can do a lot of calls. They wanted to become a supervisor so they could coach and mentor. And you sort of kill that in them when they're out running calls 24/7 and not getting to connect with those folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you really make that point about how important coaching is. And, when, back to, if you're only giving feedback once a year, shame on you, right? Because you've lost so many opportunities to, every time you interact with someone, every time you read a QI or, QA, right? Like, there's an opportunity to coach someone. And I forget who was talking about the gaps. Robbie, do you remember? Was that last night? Somebody was talking about, it was Captain Crowell talking about the gap in education.
Mm.
And when you think about, coaching as a method for closing that gap, right? And not that the gap is wrong, but it's just a learning gap, right? We all have them.
Well, and I think it comes back to, again, for those, I think a lot of us have been in leadership roles. And when you were asked to do performance feedback for folks, what sort of education or training did you get on how to do that? What's the right setting? Where should this not happen? Where should it happen? How's the right way to sort of deliver that message? Because, everybody gets into sort of I always say constructive criticism is always welcome when it stops being constructive. Well, now you're just complaining, and so it stops being welcome. I think it's a function of it is not, sometimes leadership is innate, but all of the skills surrounding leadership, like feedback, that's not something that everybody knows how to do. And so, it is a function of teach them how to do it and role play and try and make sure, everyone sat in the seat and had feedback before at some point. But,
right.
So there's a ton of opportunity to, as I think we said earlier in the week, the workforce issue, there's a simple solution, but it won't be easy.
Yeah.
Scott, I think it was you that was mentioning not to go with the feedback sandwich with the positive, the negative, and the positive. I am a huge fan of that for so many reasons. I think we don't want to hurt someone's feelings. We definitely want to give them the feedback that they need in order to grow and progress. But we try to couch it with, hey, you're really good at this, and hey, you're really good at that. But I think then the actual learning point does get lost.
Diluted.
And it's harder to just say, here's what's going on. But that does lend itself to those coaching discussions and ongoing improvement.
Yeah. And then you're never really in a position to give a genuine compliment in the future, right? Because every single time that, person's waiting to get cuffed up the back of the head. And I think that, the love sandwich was sort of how I was taught to do it. They're like, say something positive, say what the problem is, and then say something positive again. And it just, there's boatloads of research on that. So yeah, the love sandwich is not, it's not providing the nutrition that Suze would want.
So true.
Great
So true.
segue.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Scott. So Suze, I know it probably goes without saying, but we are in a situation where people are overtired, overextended. It's been a, excuse the expression, shit show of a year. And forgive my language, but it really has. And you offer such simple solutions to help people. Because like I said, it goes without saying, but if we're not feeding our bodies appropriately, how are we? We're in a 1 down position, if not a 10 down position.
Absolutely. And what's so interesting about food, there's a lot of different things I do as a health coach. I teach people stress management. I'm that personal trainer you were talking about. I'm a fitness professional. I'm a nutrition therapist. And not everyone does Tai Chi. Not everyone does yoga or works out in the gym, but everyone eats. Everyone eats. And there's so much misinformation and just fake science and trends and fads that don't serve us. And what I know to be true is that, at least in this country, in the United States, most of us are overfed and undernourished. It's not an issue of starvation. It's an issue of malnutrition. There's a huge difference there. And sometimes I think, wow, why don't people make healthy changes? Well, most people, they just don't know how. They truly have no idea of how to nourish their bodies, or sometimes it's just like they don't realize the cause and effect necessarily. You know, the quality of our health, not only our longevity, how long we live, but the quality of how we feel today and throughout our latter years depends on so many things. A little genetics, a little bit about fitness, stress management, how we sleep, but 80% of that, 80% of the quality of our health now and for the rest of our life depends on what we put in our mouth.
Mhm.
Like, that's nuts. Such a huge number that I'm just passionate about helping people understand. I found that super empowering because, wait, the decision I make each day with something as simple as how I eat has that enormous an impact over how I feel. Because honestly, if we're healthy, we feel good. If we're not healthy, we don't feel good. So to me, it's all about feeling good and doing it naturally in a way that's very simple. Again, maybe not easy, to your point earlier, Scott. Simple, maybe not easy, but also very doable. And there doesn't have to be a lot of mystery around food. There doesn't have to be a lot of misconception. Sugar addiction is a real thing, Lisa. It's a real thing. And it's something that so many of us have experienced. Me
Oh,
too.
you're talking to the other Lisa.
Yes, talking to the other Lisa. Correct. And a lot of times there's shame around eating habits, and there's feeling of failure. You know, oh, yo-yo dieting. I yo-yo dieted for so many years, and I just felt like a complete failure. And I kept breaking promises to myself because it was not sustainable. So I just decided I had to figure out what the heck was really going on in the world of food and nutrition.
Yeah.
And that's why I became so passionate about just helping people learn how to nourish their bodies. Because if we are not well nourished, it's like a car running on fumes, literally, and it's going to cause damage over time on many, many levels.
Yeah. Rob Cook, in his presentation, he said this thing that really impacted me. He quoted, and I can't remember who the person was that said it, but the quote was something to the effect of, until you understand something, abuse is inevitable. And so then he proceeded to give examples. And one of the examples was, for him, he misunderstood food. And so the abuse was, well, he thought food was about culture, food was about comfort, food was about, and he listed a bunch of things, but he said when he got like, oh, I misunderstood what the purpose of food is. It's to nourish and provide fuel for my body. And it was one of those like moments where it was like, like, wow, like when you think about that, like it's so many things, right? He talks about many other things that we misunderstand. And but that, that I thought really tied into what you're talking about, because so many of us have gotten misinformation. So many of us were taught food was comfort, food was this, food was that. But when you really get clear, like, oh, it's nutrition, it's fuel for your body, and it can taste good and that stuff, but its primary intention, right? It just changed. To me, it changed my whole like world.
I love that. That is so well said. Yeah, I mean, food is fuel, period, end of story. And the reason we need fuel and nutrients is because our bodies can't create most of the nutrients we need to function well. And I don't know about you, but I want my brain to function really well, and I want like my skin to function well, and I want my immune system to function well. I want to have a lot of energy. People always say to me, "Why do you have so much energy?" Because I fuel my body, and I've learned over the years how to do it. It's so interesting because people will say, well, what do I do? Well, there are some common nutritional needs that we all need at certain ages and certain places. And, as a woman who's 58, I need different nutrients. Some basic nutrients as everybody here else in this panel, but also I need some very specific nutrients. If you're a man who's 58, you need some different things from me. So, in different ages and different stress levels. Stress, by the way, anxiety depletes specific nutrients in our body. And sometimes we would feel a whole lot better if we just had like more vitamin B complex in our body. Sometimes it's that simple to shift. So to me, it's like, if we can think of our bodies as a science experiment, right? We don't have to get it right or wrong. We just need to learn more and observe and get more information, become more self-aware about like, why am I hungry now? Or why am I not? Why am I eating salty things? Why am I eating sweet things? Why am I not having breakfast? Why am I eating a lot till I feel very bloated? What's causing bloat for me today? Those can be such a beautiful way to get into this journey of self-discovery and really self-love. Because when we nurture ourselves as we would nurture our child with the food, it can really shift a whole bunch of subconscious self-talk that may not be productive. And again, it can be really simple. It can be so simple. And that's part of what I love, is helping people just simplify it.
And Suze, I'll share with the group here that you helped coach me just even in the last 10 weeks as we're leading up to the summit. We're working on big projects. It was a pretty big time crunch. And, you know, folks are busy out there. I mean, I was working my full-time job as well. And I found myself just not even eating for 8 hours straight, which isn't healthy. And thanks to your coaching, just tweaking, watching, like, you know, the sugar intake per day, you put together a meal plan that kept my, I think, a daily intake of sugar under 50 grams. You helped me focus on, you know, more protein and different things that are easy to make. And in the last 10 weeks, I think I've dropped about 12 or 13 pounds just from changing what I eat and not necessarily changing activity levels. So shout out to you for putting that together. And
so good.
And
it's
like,
all about, you know, shedding extra unhealthy fat, but maintaining the muscle that we need to function well. And yeah, you're just a lot of fun to work with. Robbie's also a great cook, by the way, people, in case you didn't know it. I had to really come up with some fabulous recipes for him. So it's good. It's very doable. And sometimes we just need a guide to help us, and that coach that you were talking about earlier, that coach and that organization, and knowing when we're running out of things, right? And I just love helping people enjoy their healthy journey with shifting their food.
Well, before we have a question in the chat, but before we go there, I just want to, I just see something to tie into everything that people are talking about, is that when we have like this cookie cutter approach, it never works, right? So if I think about everything I ever learned about nutrition or dieting or whatever, and God knows I've been up and down for years, it was always like just to follow this plan. Not what does Lisa need, you know, or at what age or whatever. It was just this cookie cutter, same thing. Like if we do a cookie cutter performance evaluation, right? Or we have a cookie cutter approach to even supplies, right? Like, because every department's going to need different things. And I just wanted to say that because it just seemed really obvious to me that we have fallen into a trap, I think, to try to save time. And that has really not served us individually as human beings and as organizations, because we've dehumanized people and dehumanized ourselves.
One comment I wanted to make, and we talked about this, I think, on the first night's panel, was the idea that a lot of our orientation programs, sort of 85% of the orientation programs, are clinical based. And that's not really a reflection of the distribution of what EMTs and paramedics do. And one of the things that I've been advocating for a long time are, you know, how do you eat healthy and survive from a gas station, right? You know, if like out of a convenience store. And one of the things you said in your session today was, you know, that not enough nutrients creates inflammation, which then I said, well, inflammation creates discomfort. Discomfort creates lack of movement, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. I've had both shoulders repaired. I've had 3 knee surgeries and an L4, L5. And I think, God, how much of that, I keep moving. I keep getting on the trampoline with the kids or whatever. Why? Because I know that the less you move, the more discomfort you get. But I never really, I think, played enough or laid enough importance on the nutrition piece. So to me, that's part of what happens, right? You can watch the number of people who get hired as EMTs and paramedics who are relatively fit, and then take a look at them like 2 years later and, you know, see what's gone with their BMI. And that's not, I was 5'1" and 200 pounds. I weigh now what I weighed in 7th grade. And so, you know, I struggle with that all the time, but I think if we could sort of retool the way that we prepare people for the job to include things like nutrition and financial planning and, you know, some of the other parts of this job, right? Because, you know, folks come in and we almost just burn them out and then off they go and we wonder why they left.
I think that's such a great point, Scott. I think that when you're onboarding new employees, there's so many parts that need to be considered. And that is the culture of the company, how things get done, why they're done, the channels that people can reach out to for assistance. I love the addition or the thought of adding nutritional or stress management into that. I think there's so many ways you can address onboarding for first responders. And then that does kind of lead into how coaching and performance management is handled, right? If we're looking at even a potential shift to more of a servant leadership, it's more of how can I help you be successful, right? And so if that, it's kind of a minor shift, but it's a big deal. It's a really big deal if we can onboard people, set them up for success, and then give them proper channels for feedback and coaching.
Yeah, well said.
I think it's a huge opportunity that leaders that are watching this and leaders now have in the next 9 to 10 years, looking at the structures that are in place in your organization, because call volume is not going to go down. Scott, you said earlier in your presentation that there was a HRSA statistic of by 2030 that we're going to need another 45 to 1,000 employees, full-time equivalent employees for our industry by 2030. And I looked up some census numbers, and the baby boomer generation by the year 2030 will have just over 73 million will have turned over the age of 65. So organizations, I mean, Lisa and I talk about this all the time, looking at the structures will drive behavior, the behaviors will drive results. So how can we look at the structures in place, whether it's supply ordering and logistics, whether it's to Eric's point that we're going to talk about in a moment here, is how do you give effective feedback, especially as supervisors are doing more calls and wanting more results and Sue's, how do your organizations are going to get busier. How do we focus and make sure they're getting fed, or they at least have the proper knowledge to prepare and pack that cooler with them so they can take a break? Or how can we as supervisors make sure they're getting a break?
Yeah, make it easy to have healthy things around, make sure there's a refrigerator in the staff room big enough, encouraging lots of water. It's not that complicated. And Robbie, you know this, and Lisa, you know this as well. My brother was a paramedic and firefighter and policeman for many years before he was in a really debilitating accident as a motorcycle cop. And he was on the force probably 28 years. And he loved it. And he would always tell me how everyone was cooking and taking turns. And I'd be like, oh, what are they eating? And man, I started hearing about all the things that we were eating that would just make them feel bloated and lethargic and take away from their ability to function well. And it was just kind of heartbreaking, because it doesn't have to be that way.
I see more and more organizations actually, making snacks and food available for their staff, because really fundamentally, it's a pretty inexpensive thing to do. And if it's there, a lot of times we'd be like, man, I know when I get to my office, I bring lunch every day because I don't want to leave. I don't want to have to leave, because that just takes me off spins me out into the hay bales from a performance perspective. And that's, so I've seen more and more organizations putting food, making water available, and again, and on top of it, by the way, it has this unbelievable effect of making your employees think that you care about them, that you're trying to further take care of them, and not only, nourish them professionally, but then, personally.
It's also a great way to strike up conversations. People feel that food is love in many ways, and they feel loved when they're provided with food. And just imagine people like having snacks that are available, and the conversations about what they used to eat as kids, or what do they enjoy, or what was traditional for holidays or celebrations, are just a great way to strike up a conversation and create more bonds and see our commonality as human beings.
Yeah, just stick a sticker on there that says, because we love you or something.
Yeah.
A lot of times it does become expensive. We know that when you offer, $1 an hour raise, people at some point will be like, why wasn't it $1.50? But I think it's a function of, just if you're reminding people, this is why it's here. This is what we're trying to do for you. That's hard to forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Scott, maybe you could take on this question from Eric, who's just asking about, thoughts on how to deal with organizations that don't allow for supervisors to give feedback in general, and especially when there are performance issues. He says it feels like at times organizations are aware of the lack of training for the supervisors too.
Well, and I think, thanks for the question, Eric. I think there's sort of two pieces to that. One is when they, what I think he's getting at on the not allowing is it's a function of time, right? In other words, there's this expectation that you're fitting it in somewhere in between all of the calls or all of the work, and so when we say not allowing for it, I think a lot of times it's just an opportunity piece. But, they're well aware that they didn't, provide you training, but it's likely because they never got training. And so it might not occur to them that there's some skill or art to that. And so again, one of the best ways is to ask for it, right? Is for those supervisors and those frontline leaders to say, someone says, I want you to do, Robbie or Lisa's review. You say, geez, I've never done that before. Can you teach me how to do that? Can we talk about it? And what you'll often find is if everybody's asking, a lot of times that's what starts to change the behavior. And, full disclosure, I created a mobile application that's really supposed to put enough information in the hands of the supervisors that they can use that time. If it's only 6 to 8% of the time, I don't want the same person Robbie saw yesterday for Lisa to go engage that person. I want them to go get the rest. We spend 80% of the time on 20% of our people. And the reality is the 80% are like the solid ore rowers every single day. The 20%, like 15% of those people are problems. 5% are like the high performers who want to make sure you're very aware of how awesome they are. And the other 80% get left behind. And so what does that do? It's one, death by 1,000 cuts, one cut at a time. And so, better using, understanding that, if you have a bunch of supervisors out there, your Thursday supervisor may have no idea who your Tuesday supervisor saw or didn't see. And I just think it's a function of, making sure it's intentional, because if it's not intentional, it will not change.
And frequent, right? So the last thing you want to do is to run a survey once a year and do nothing with it, or to collect a single point in time, rather than kind of that idea of a pulse survey or just getting more regular ongoing feedback.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I created Noon 360 was because I wanted to be able to say, look, you come to work for us, you're going to have an encounter with someone in leadership and get feedback 85% of the time. And by the way, you're going to be able to give feedback on anybody in the team, any one of our leaders at any time you want. And here's how our folks rate our leaders. Because again, how does it happen at your organization? Oh, they don't ask. Well, you know why they don't ask? Because it doesn't really matter what and so that's that, making sure that, if you do something that's intent, it doesn't have to be a Noon 360. It's a function of, whatever is important to you, whatever you ask your folks to measure, right? Like, hey, how often are you getting to talk to employees? How often are you engaging? We had a person at one company I worked at with 1,200 people who hadn't had a performance review, and that was just the annual review, in over 3 years. And I thought, God, that's unacceptable. So,
yeah, and it happens.
Really cool concept. That app is a super cool concept, Scott. I really like it.
I'll tell you, honestly, the adoption has been, even with the customers who, we have 6, 7 customers on, company customers, it's a function of changing behavior and saying, like, look, again, when I say, like, geez, I noticed you only encountered about 10% of your staff each month for the last 6 months. And so wouldn't you, again, don't you, if we know for certain, this kind of goes back to some of the things on nutrition, if we know for certain that something will change behavior, that will actually change those things that ail us, why don't we do it? And I bet you, Suze, you have like great insight on why folks like me still eat like Cheetos from time to time, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not good for you, but we continue to do those kind of things. And I think honestly, right now, everybody is exhausted in the idea of doing that's what I hear a lot of times. It's just one more thing. And I say, each encounter is set up to last less than 3 to, like, in other words, for you to capture it, less than 3 to 5 seconds. So, this is not going to be a heavy lift for you, because I did that job. I remember how tough it was. But and that was, 15 years ago. I certainly don't know what it's like today. It's probably 10 times worse.
And I would think that the timeliness of good or bad, right, positive or negative feedback on something that happened matters. I do something awesome and I don't hear one way or the other about it for 6, 8, 10 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not as excited to do that awesome thing again.
Well,
Whereas, even the learning points, I do something where I didn't realize I did something really bad, and it goes and goes and goes. I may keep doing that not awesome thing.
well, and that goes right back to Pavlov's dog, right? I mean, if in fact, good or bad, if you see behavior and you address it immediately, you reinforce that behavior, right? Or you extinguish it. So if you're addressing someone who's late or who, either you had a complaint about, or, as opposed to, what's the chances that someone's going to be late to work if you say something today, as opposed to 5 weeks from now when you run the report to go, hey, I got to talk to you about attendance. And they're pissed off at you. Why? Because they thought you forgot, because they've seen you 4 times. You didn't happen to know that they weren't there yesterday. And so now they're like, are you kidding me? You're coming to me now? Like, you've been asleep at the wheel and now you're, but alternatively, to your point, Lisa, like, if you do something great, there's like research. I was a psych undergrad before I went to law school. The fact of the matter is, I say to my wife all the time, I'm like, I respond well to positive reinforcement. If you say, I will do more and more and more, why? Because I want, and I think that that's how most folks are. And so again, we sort of put people out there. They are independent, but that's what draws people to this job. But they do not. That doesn't mean they don't want to be recognized.
Absolutely.
And it's so interesting to hear this conversation, because to me, I know that the good health, our health, is either spiraling up or spiraling down. It's never stagnant, dormant at one level. And it's the same thing about community. It's the same thing about morale. It's the same thing about teamwork. It's the same thing about leadership. All of these have a living, breathing energy to them, and they need to be nourished. And they need to be accountability and clarity, really, because when feedback is given, I would imagine in most cases, the purpose is to help with clarity, so that if a shift is needed, a shift can be facilitated. So it's all about empowering our teams, empowering ourselves on so many levels. So I love this conversation.
Yeah, it's really great.
My watch just told me to get up and take a loop around the block. Honestly, that has changed everything for me. At least 3 to 4 times a day, I take phone calls walking around the parking lot. And I think they think I'm talking to myself, but actually it makes them leave me alone while I'm out there. So, but still, that again, what does one of these cost? They're not that expensive, and I mean, depending on what version you get. But again, could you not furnish something like that to your staff? To say, hey, it is amazing to me how this one thing. Like, if I was on the bike today, I left it upstairs. I had to run upstairs, get it, come back because I wanted credit. Right.
Yeah. Right.
By the way, it says, oh, by the way, your wife stopped running. She's done with her workout. And I'm like, that means she knows I haven't worked out yet. Right. And that's just, again, that I think there are a lot of things that we could do. It's just, it is not going to be, if you're expecting what worked 20 years ago, well, you'll get what you got 20 years ago, except for it's not the same environment. It's just not.
And we have so much new technology now, Suze, it almost makes me wonder, do you encourage your clients to utilize any of the food tracking or fitness tracking apps that are out there? Because I know sometimes earning one of those little stars just makes me happy,
Like, yes, I'm awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So MyFitnessPal is a great way to track your water intake, your nutrient intake, your macros, your micros, and all that, as well as your fitness. There's a number of different apps out there which are wonderful. What's important for people to remember is that it doesn't necessarily take an app. You can always just, if you're not like an app person, you can always just write stuff down. Food journaling, when we take on the idea of, I'm going to write down everything I eat and drink for the next 5 days, you don't have to show it to anyone. You will be amazed if it is what you put in your mouth is different, because you don't want to write that down.
It's true.
Right? It's like, and like, you're not going to even show it to anybody, but it's developing an awareness. It's seeing patterns. People ask me sometimes, well, how do I know if I have a food sensitivity to gluten or dairy? Our bodies can take up to 2 weeks to react to something, food up to 2 weeks. So being aware of what we're eating is just, the first thing is just awareness. And it's the other thing, though, it's so important when we get into food tracking, macros and micros. And I do that for a lot of my clients, because a lot of people are like, just tell me what to eat. Like, I'm overwhelmed, just tell me. And I can do that. That's all good. But I think the most important thing is to come to our nutrition or our fitness, all of these wellness focuses and platforms and pillars for good health from a position of self-love. You know, it's so easy to be very judgy against ourselves in a very negative, condescending, condemning way when we're looking at our food. So, you know, if we can really just to thinking, you know, what if you were your own little baby or your own little dog or whatever, like, would you do it with love and with gentleness and kindness. So being kind to ourselves as we begin to slowly improve what we're eating is just a beautiful way to take the negativity and the anger and the shame out of it and put it into a good thing. Like, I'm a rock star. I'm a science experiment. I can't wait to see what I'm going to figure out. And it may change 5 days from now, a year from now, as my needs change. And that's okay, because I am endlessly fascinating. I am my own new hobby. And that's where I want people to go with that.
I love it.
And frankly, I think leadership needs to be seen as an experiment too.
Right.
You know, people think leadership is a thing versus a work in progress. Like it's a you know, moment.
Like it's a destination where you arrive.
Yeah.
At,
Oh, I'm a leader now. You know?
Right.
Yeah. As opposed to no, like, oh, I don't know what works with this person. I'm going to ask. I don't know what works exactly for me. I'm going to be, you know, I'm a dynamic being. I'm not a, you know, stagnant thing. And, you know, I don't know if what I thought yesterday is what I'm going to think today. And it probably won't be, because every day we see something new. And so that idea that, you know, we've arrived or there's a place to get to, I think is just so outdated. And instead, if we could see really the with curiosity and kindness, the experimentation of leadership, I think that would be a really cool thing for people to kind of take on.
I think so too. I really kind of think if we could give ourselves as leaders a little bit of grace, it allows us to also recognize we make mistakes and we can apologize or we can make adjustments. And I think it helps us give those that we're managing or those in our care a little bit of grace as well, recognizing that none of us are perfect. We're all gonna fall short.
Yeah, and that's what experimenting is all about. No such thing as failure, right? It's learning. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. That's the game, right? So I'm noticing the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that happened, Robbie. We usually start wrapping up about 1:15, and now it's like, oh God, it's 8:00. Okay. So
I'd like to thank everyone for being on this panel, for being with us all week. Really, your energy, your excitement. I mean, what's now possible for so many leaders out there watching? New ways of being, new approaches, getting curious, raising self-awareness. I think these are all great ideas for leaders to try out and try on and see what's possible. Not being so busy in your organization, like trying to just step back from the busyness and pay attention to the folks in our organizations that are, you know, maybe getting ignored or maybe not feeling the love that they need to feel. So really appreciate each and every one of you.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure and an honor to provide some information and be a part of it.
Well, and you up the game every year. I think that's the part that for me, I thought last year was pretty slick, but this year was even better and longer. Right, more free content for folks. So I appreciate, one, getting the chance, and then number two, just the quality of what you're putting out is just, it's remarkable.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
And what you're doing is so, there's so much potential for true transformation in so many levels. So I think you guys are total rock stars. You both know that. Plus you're fun and you're laughing, you're clearly enjoying it, and everything you're doing is coming from the heart. So I'm just thrilled to be a part of this. And I want to thank everybody who's an EMS provider, because you are literally our true heroes in these days and ages. If anybody needs anything, just reach out. I am here to help.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Well, thanks,
really
Lisa.
an honor.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Scott, for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Wow, Lisa, what a great panel. And I can't believe the time flew right by. We've got a lot of great comments down in the chat. Outstanding job to all panelists here, and Dwight chiming in. He's so grateful to found the summit last year and he was able to attend. So yeah, this is day 5, and I know we've talked about it a few times, but I think folks might want to know what's next. We're excited to put together, EMS Leadership Live coming up here in February. We put together a a great program for folks over 3 days. And we put together some special pricing as well. So folks, if you check out emsleadershipsummit.com/live, you'll be able to see what we're going to do in February, right? This is an opportunity to be with us live. It's not a webinar. We're not going to do just a live chat. It's going to be an opportunity to be face to face, to make connections, and we're thrilled to be able to provide that in February.
Yeah, it's like the best of both worlds. This the summit has been amazing. People have really gotten a lot out of it, and there's a lot to be gained from listening to folks present. And there's something else available in a training, and so that's what this really is focused on: is how could we bring all of what we've learned, the thousands of hours and hours and hours of work we've done, not only on ourselves but on the learning about how to cause and maintain and sustain a lasting change, and then what we've learned worked in all the classes we've taught, as well as all the investment of resources you and I have made in ourselves and our work, and how do we bring that to the most people and the most cost-effective way. So this 3-day live immersive training, we will be live. It will not be recorded. You will be in the comfort of your own home or office, and you will be on a screen just like you see here. You will be interacting with us. You'll be interacting with other participants from around the world, and we already have people from other countries besides the United States who are registered. And we are doing this February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And we are excited to really provide the kind of transformational change that people are looking for.
Yeah, Lisa, I love the fact that we're going to ask that people carve time out of their schedules. I mean, the statistics Scott talked about, the fact that they're losing people, every year you're losing people. And if you could just redirect some of that money to reinvest in your people, one of your most important assets, if you can invest in their leadership development before they get thrust into a position of leadership, how great would that be? How great would it be for them to know and to have some of these additional tools in their leadership toolbox before they're faced with a situation that, they haven't been prepared for?
Yeah, exactly what Scott was talking about, right? And imagine if leadership started on day one, right? For everyone who joins your organization, versus, we need somebody for this position, so let's put that person in it. But what if everyone was treated as a leader and trained and to really grow into leadership positions? Like, wow. Dr. Blevins has joined us. I see him in the chat. Sorry, Dr. Blevins. Sure. If you have something you would like to share, please feel free to type that in. I'm not sure what happened with you joining our live tonight. So,
yeah, I'm sorry we weren't able to see him live with this great panel that we had. But his talk was incredible today. Lisa, folks can still, maybe you could share a little bit about the talk that you two recorded.
Absolutely. One of my favorite, it was amazing, the whole thing. But then at the very beginning, when I asked Dr. Blevins to share with folks what he does, he says, I help people eliminate unnecessary mental suffering. And I was like, wow, what a tagline, right? And that's really what he does. I've taken a course with him. He's spectacular. And just the opportunity to be with him for that hour was life-changing. But when you really start to see that, stress and all kinds of mental suffering all stem from a misunderstanding about how life works and how the human brain works. And Dr. Blevins talks about that in his presentation. So I would encourage people to watch it, register if you haven't yet. You can still watch today's sessions until 6 p.m. tomorrow. Is that right?
8 a.m. tomorrow is when the sessions end. Each day's sessions are available for 24 hours. The price for the All Access Pass will go up to $147, 6 p.m. tomorrow night. So folks, tomorrow you still have a chance up until about 6 p.m. Eastern as far as how to upgrade to that All Access Pass.
Oh, I feel terrible. Dr. Blevin said he didn't know how to join in. I'm sorry. We had sent you a link. Um, we will definitely figure something out.
All right. Well, I
Shall
mean,
we thank our sponsors one more time before
yeah,
we wrap
absolutely,
up?
folks. You could still check out the virtual exhibitor hall. We're going to leave this virtual exhibitor hall up, so you can reach out to our sponsors, check those booths out for sure. Just go through each one of them. You know, if you have a question, most of them have a contact form, and they'd love to hear from you. And we'd really appreciate you reaching out. I heard some folks reached out to Sue's, have reached out already about some nutritional questions, or she's got a great snack guide there. The folks at the Resuscitation Academy and Citizen CPR Foundation were really generous in bringing these two great organizations together in a great panel discussion. So we thank them. The folks down at Fairfax County Fire Rescue, you know, having a virtual recruitment booth. They're doing very innovative things. If you were on the live last night, you heard their training department. You know, they've got a really great approach to training, not making assumptions about that it's, you know, any one particular person or problem. They really see training as their responsibility as leaders. Their organization is a reflection of the quality of training that they're able to provide. And we had some great conversations about psychological safety last night. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had Binderlift folks. You can check out the Binderlift device, get a free field trial from Rick Bender. He'd love to hear from you as well if you're at all curious about it and walk you through that device. The Emergency Responder Safety Institute, a lot of what we do is operating on roadways. ERSI or respondersafety.com. That organization, that nonprofit, has put together an entire library of free training to help educate providers on safety strategies. And Jack Sullivan's presentation was really eye-opening about, you know, how quickly things can change on the scene of a roadway incident, and what we can do to put tools in place to look at a systems approach, as Mick Gunderson would say, right, is to look at how we can, as a system, address these safety concerns and issues.
And the resources they put together, I'm sorry if you said this already,
No,
were just amazing. They put them together for us last year. They've updated them for this year. So just thank you. Hats off to them for their commitment and just all of what they're providing for folks to keep people safe.
Absolutely. Shout out to Martin at Fire Rescue TV. Thanks for broadcasting this summit the last 5 days onto your digital signage platform. If you want information on really how to improve internal communications in your organizations, I think, who was it this week? Somebody said, I think Alexia Jobson said that EMS was one of the first remote workforces operating at multiple different stations and different locations, and having your own very inexpensive digital signage platform. It's a really great opportunity for organizations. We want to thank Ninth Brain and their team for creating solutions for our industry that are really tailored to the things that we do every day, from quality assurance to checklists and scheduling and CME education and safety management systems. So what a great team at Ninth Brain, and their service has been amazing in working with their team. Also, we had FirstNet by AT&T. Thanks to the folks at AT&T for supporting by FirstNet. Check out some of these resources that you can deploy in your organization and learn about, you know, when disaster strikes, are you going to know what resources are available to deploy? And they did a great job here at FirstNet for supporting the EMS Leadership Summit. So we thank them for that.
I'm back. Sorry.
And we had the folks at Technomount, obviously last but not least, the folks at Technomount. Check out their solutions for, you know, improving provider safety in the back of an ambulance, because, you know, sometimes it's one of the biggest tragedies to have an accident happen. The last thing we want is for severe injury or death to happen from unsecured equipment. And from the safety arm to the mounting solutions for all different types of monitors, they've really done a great job at creating innovative solutions that are safe. They're rated to, you can check out their G ratings for amount of ratings for crash test worthiness. And there's a lot of great information here, and you can reach out to their team as well.
And they're so nice. They are so nice. We met with them several times. They're just nice people, and they sponsor the Dude. So you gotta love them, right?
Right.
Did you mention MediCredits? Should we say something?
And MediCredits. So in the next month or so, anybody who's watched the summit through our platform, if you purchase an all access pass for CME credits, you'll be able to redeem and access the quiz. Those quiz and exam questions will produce CAPC approved CME credits, but it will take a little bit of time to put together. So you've got plenty of time to watch those sessions on our platform. Again, you've got an opportunity to upgrade to an all access pass. So up until tomorrow night before the price goes up. So if you're at all thinking about it, you'll have lifetime access to an entire library of this year's speakers, which, Lisa, every year the speakers get better and better, and I'm super excited that we're able to do this for everyone.
Me too, and more. I mean, we just have so much fun. I mean, and this year a book signing booth with Chris Cevallero.
Shout out to Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Awesome presentation he provided. Just really kind, and he's gave us books, signed them all, different notes in each one. We have a limited number of copies, only selling it for $9. It's worth it. I mean, you're not going to believe how good a book this is. $9 plus $1 shipping. So take advantage of that. We do have a few left. And of course, IAMed and the CME Collective, thank you again. Just everyone, just thank you so much for making this possible. We love doing it. We love being able to give a platform for so many people who have important messages from all over the world. I mean, what a diversity of speakers we had this year. Amazing.
Absolutely. So folks, we hope you'll check out emsleadershipsummit.com/live and you'll join us in February. Carve out some time in your calendar. We know people's schedules get busy, but take the time to invest in your own professional development. Consider investing in the professional development of your people and really building a bench of leaders where you can build their leadership capacity before they get promoted. And what a treat it's going to be for folks to join us to really create and build on their past successes and a new place to operate from as a leader.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's still time to get a free pass for the EMS Leadership Summit. You can check out all of today's sessions, including Nadine Levick's killer session this afternoon, which is not the afternoon anymore. But all of these are still available until 6 p.m. Tomorrow. And so please feel free. It's not too late. I mean, you can watch Scott's, Lisa Rainey's, Dr. Blevins. I promise you that one is worth the price of admission, man. That is such a great, all of them are great, but just go get your free pass and watch these and have your life change before your eyes.
Well, Lisa, I think that does it. That about wraps up year number 3, our 3rd annual EMS Leadership Summit. I want to thank all of our sponsors, all our incredible speakers, and most importantly, our participants. It's great to get your messages, to hear you, to read your emails and your questions, and we hope we're able to deliver some value and just get folks to see a new perspective. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, and we will be sending out a survey in a couple of days to folks to get some feedback on, and at any time, just give us feedback, what you want to see more of, what would make it even more valuable for you. We really, we're already looking forward to the 4th annual EMS Leadership Summit, and, your feedback helps us make it better.
Absolutely. So folks, we hope you take advantage of the special summit pricing, the discounted pricing for EMS Leadership Live. We will be excited to see your faces, to hear from you in real time, and hopefully connect with you around the world.
Absolutely. I'm having a hard time saying goodbye, Robbie.
No.
It's been an honor co-hosting again with you and being your partner in the EMS Leadership Academy, and I'm just thrilled that we get to do this together.
It's my pleasure, my friend. And I love every moment we get to spend together, every moment we get to spend with some of these great panelists and the conversations we get to have. And hopefully, again, it's making a difference worldwide.
All right. Well, that's a wrap.
All right, folks, be healthy, be safe, and we will see you next time.
Bye.